Hey there, hi there, ho there. Welcome back once again to another very exciting episode of Disney Compendium, an Annex episode. This is too much to even be an Annex episode. This is a special edition. This is
on a very special edition.
Yes. Nick,
Yeah.
I am going to need you to come with me. We're hopping into a time machine.
Okay, cool.
I'm sorry, we've gone too far ahead. We're in the 2000s right now, buddy.
Yeah.
We need to go back. We got to go back. Much like Lost, we got to go back. And we got to go back to 1946.
Oh, well, Hitler's already dead. We can't kill him twice.
No, we can't kill him twice. And it's okay. We've already watched Make Mine Music, so we don't have to watch that again.
Oh, my God.
But we are watching the other Disney movie that came out in 1946, my friend.
Is it, would that be, oh, man.
Just going to let you stew in this one for a minute. Try to come up with your joke.
Let's see. Is it that one movie that Disney talks about all the time? That they acknowledge constantly?
Yeah, they cannot stop talking about this movie. It is nonstop. Yeah. It's one of their most talked about movies of all time. You can they're just giving it away everywhere you go. They're just you get walking to the park, they're handing it out with the tickets.
Yeah, it's like how many special editions this movie they're going to put out?
Yeah, I mean I can't get enough of it either. It's just nonstop. It's all over Disney Plus. Can't miss it.
Can't miss it. Yeah. It's right next to Hamilton.
It's right next to Hamilton. Yeah.
In between Hamilton and Greatest Showman is this movie.
It's this movie. It's like they shoved it in. It's if you when you load up important movies, it's right there with it. It's hanging out with Blazing Saddles.
Yeah. It's the section of Disney Plus where it says celebrate Black voices. This movie's in there.
Yeah. Or it's absolutely not, and Disney pretends that it's never going to exist and never has existed. Buddy, we're talking about the 1946 live action animated classic Song of the South.
Problematic.
A long time coming. It was always so. The reason why we decided to shove Song of the South in here is because the next episode is Princess and the Frog, and right now those two are very linked to one another since they're making way in the ride that is loosely based on this film for Princess and the Frog. So we figured might as well talk about Song of the South.
It's also culturally relevant right now.
It's very culturally relevant right now.
Yeah.
So this movie was released through RKO.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. RKO out of nowhere. Which at the time RKO kind of did like two things. They released Disney films and they released like crime and noir movies. Those were their two major claims to fame.
And King Kong,
but not at this point. That we're past that era of RKO. RKO used to distribute the Disney short films too. So
Radio Keith Orpheum.
Yes.
I forgot what it stands for.
Yeah. But yeah, so 1946. 1946, as we've talked about in the past, a tough year for Disney.
Post-war,
like really post-war,
like right after.
Yeah. Song of the South came out. Well, let's see when its premiere was. November of 46. So keep that in mind. Keep in mind that World War II ended in
June of 45.
45. Yeah, it was like summer of 45. I couldn't remember when, but yeah.
Yeah.
And so money was tight. And at the Disney Studios, their money was both tied up overseas because they couldn't get their European money because it had to be used over there, as we've talked about before. That's why they started doing so many live action movies around the time. And it's really cheap to make live action by comparison, especially for Disney, since they're not doing particularly massive films. You know, they're not. This movie is a lot of things, but it's not a high budget film.
But nor is it all live action.
No, it has several animated shorts scattered throughout, which Disney was still doing at the time. And Walt's interest in animation was starting to wane at this point. At this point, we're less than 10 years away from Disneyland. You know,
so he's already got an eye towards that, I'm sure.
Yeah, he always wanted to be a live action director, so this era really worked out for him. And so inevitably, Song of the South becomes a film that they're going to make based off of the Joel Chandler Harris book of Uncle Remus stories. Which is great, you know, nothing's better than a white guy writing Black history. Walt
said he'd always wanted to do those stories too.
Yes, it was always something. His daughter was or daughters were big fans of the stories. Supposedly, the thing is with Disney stories is that it's hard to tell what's like legit and what's not legit.
Yeah.
And even like the books that have the best of intentions to sort of look past the Disney version of the stories can't fully decipher what the truth is and what the truth isn't with some of these things. So when we get to Disneyland stuff in the future, it becomes really tricky, like when it comes to the history of its conception, because it's virtually impossible to know what the truth is and what the truth isn't, and you just sort of have the word of the studio, but the studio not exactly known for being completely upfront for that stuff.
No,
yeah,
it's
and the thing about this, like particularly with this movie, is that the sort of ignoring it is a relatively recent thing altogether, but
last 30 years, right?
Yeah, even that, because it was still airing on the Disney Channel through the new millennium. So with a scene cut out, you will obviously know what scene was cut out when we get there. But yeah, it was still airing in the 2000s on TV. So it's really within the last like 20 some odd years at this point. So
it's now for that reason, full disclosure about how we watch this movie.
Oh yeah, you can't get this movie. It was never.
Can't.
Yeah, you can't. It was never released on VHS forward in the United States.
Yeah, it was Japan. There's that one Japanese bootleg.
Yeah, there's Asian. Yeah, there's Asian bootlegs that are pretty, and not even like it was released in like Europe and stuff on like Laserdisc, which for the most part is the highest quality version of this film that exists. It's the Laserdisc version of the movie, right. Which is the version that I was able to procure a sort of fan remaster of the Laserdisc version of this film. So it's uncut and it's actually pretty high quality. The one I gave you, the version that I lent you was even, I actually have a higher quality version than that, but there was no point in uploading this, 18 gigabyte file.
No, it looked fine. It looked fine.
It's great. It's cleaned up really well. It's not hard to find, honestly. It's on Archive. Like,
yeah, I think it was on YouTube at some point. Like,
it comes.
It'll get uploaded and then taken down.
It comes and goes. You will find it on Archive, despite some of the news about Archive. Archive still seems to be here to stay for a while, but it's definitely there. But yeah, you're not getting it in America at all. Period. No. It's scrubbed from the official Disney canon for good. For now, I mean, there could be a time where they could have some sort of archival purpose before releasing it in some way, shape, or form. I've said it before. They lost their opportunity when they were putting out the Disney Treasures sets. They put out a World War II set where they give you disclaimers about because those, there's no two ways around it. Those World War II propaganda films were all xenophobic as all get out.
Yeah.
A lot of, Asian and, Russian and German caricatures and stuff. So, don't know why I said Russian. They were our allies in World War II. Why were we making fun of them then?
Was there some Jewish stereotypes in those too?
Some of them, when you get to the silly symphonies, they did it. The original Three Little Pigs, the Big Bad Wolf was door-to-door peddling brushes, and it was very stereotypically Hasidic.
Yes.
Horrible propaganda style. So there's that, and there is a fine line between what was going on at the time and just flat out racism, and those Disney shorts were the World War II shorts didn't have good intentions behind them. They were they were designed. This movie, the intentions weren't bad. Nobody set out to do something, and they sort of went out because they knew it was going to be controversial. While making it, they knew it was going to be controversial, given the content and what was going on. They brought in people to sort of ask, hey, listen, is this okay and stuff? And early drafts of the script has some things changed and stuff, but it's still weird. It's very outdated. Outdated.
I'm just gonna get this out of the way while we're here. Is so there are things we're going to be talking about that we might not think is bad.
Yeah.
However, we're two white guys.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So we understand the core of the problematic issues with
this,
but we may not understand the minutia of some of the problematic details in here. And there's some things that we'll probably just glance over entirely, but I feel like we'll do a decent enough job to do that. With that being said, I did put a little disclaimer at the beginning of this, but there's going to be some things said that aren't particularly great. Phrases and whatnot, but nothing that could directly get us canceled. There's not going to be any heated gamer moment words on here.
Yeah, okay. Just we're not going to say the N words. Not going to be said with the hard R. That's not going to happen.
Or an A. Neither of those.
It's not going to be said, and I wouldn't feel comfortable saying it anyway.
So, yeah. But there is, and there will be a history lesson concerning one of the segments in here because of the fact that it is a derogatory term, but there's some minutia to it. So we'll talk about that when we get there. But I guess we'll just.
This news fest of a film.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it's both semi enjoyable in some aspects, but then also it gets down to nothing's happening, and when anything is happening, it's absolute chaos and it's insane.
Yeah.
The animated sequences are pretty good for the most part.
They are. Yeah.
And Uncle Remus is absolutely charming as hell.
He's the best part of the movie.
Best part of the movie by a long shot. And the James Baskett is the actor that plays him, and he's absolutely great.
He's got a great voice.
He does. He's perfect for this. which is probably a terrible thing to say in a sense, but
no, I know, but if nothing else, they actually cast black actors, and they just didn't put like white dudes in dark makeup.
Yeah, they didn't try to do like West Side Story.
Yeah,
where it's like let's put some shoe polish onto, or some like leather tanner onto the face of Frankie Valli and call him Puerto Rican or whatever. This is
right.
I mean, everything's correct. A major problem this movie has is the setting. Because Disney was never straightforward on the messaging behind what this movie was. People are unclear about the fact that in this movie they are not slaves.
It's post-war.
It's post-war. It's the Reconstruction is when this takes place. So they're not slaves. They are employees. Like, actually, they're free, but Disney never makes it perfectly clear in the movie itself. Like in everything that's sort of outside of the movie, there's messaging that says that, but in the movie itself, it never states any of that. It is completely unclear. You never know if you only barely know that Uncle Remus is a free man until like the very end, where he's just like packing his ditty bag, getting ready to leave to Atlanta.
Well, the part where he's talking to Johnny.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I'll go with you.
Yeah.
And I was like, if not knowing that, I'd be like, well, no, you can't just leave. They'll shoot you.
Yeah. So yeah, there's only like the only way you would really know is if you really knew history, and you could tell that by the clothing, because the clothing is period correct.
Yeah.
And they call like the field hands like sharecroppers and stuff. Like, you have that stuff going on. That's really the only way you'll know that
they're not employees; they're independent contractors.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get health insurance, but you get a better paycheck than you would anywhere else.
But you can't work on another plantation.
No. And so, and it is, and it takes place on like an antebellum, antebellum mansion kind of location. And so the movie starts off with the family, Johnny and his parents, like, oh, we're going to go visit your grandmother. He doesn't know that they're going there to move, to live there. But the dad is leaving immediately to go back to Atlanta because of he's an editor of the newspaper, and he has to go back, and they never at any point explain what this weird situation's about. Like, it's almost as if you're supposed to believe, like, I had to look it up after I was done watching this. Like, is there some sort of like 1940s or like Civil War era secret meaning behind why everything's such a secret, what Dad's doing? And nobody can find out anything. Nobody really knows what that Dad's deal is. You have the suspicion. We're like, is he going to fight in the
for the Confederacy? Because I didn't know it was post-war.
Yeah, it's post-war, so no. But I mean, it implies that their lives are in danger because he runs a newspaper, which makes me think that he's maybe Confederate sympathizer newspaper.
Yeah,
but it doesn't really. They never explain anything. The dad just disappears, and that's sort of the setup for the story. Johnny is very sad about all of this, and Johnny. Okay. So Johnny is Bobby Driscoll, the Disney kid of the 40s, absolutely, and he is absolutely terrible, just the worst. All of the kids in this movie, with the exception of
Toby.
Toby's fine. Toby's fine. I like Toby, but also Toby's like he's like problematic. It's like he's like buckwheat in this.
Story.
But he's a sweet kid. He really seems like he's having fun.
He's precocious.
He's precocious. He seems like he's genuinely having fun being in this movie. So Bobby Driscoll seems like he's just sort of like he's pretending to do what he thinks actors do. It's obnoxious. His crying is terrible.
When his dad leaves. Oh
yeah.
my god.
Yeah, it's miserable. So yeah, he packs up his bindle and he's getting ready to run away. To where, unclear, probably to Atlanta as well. But
I believe it's Atlanta because
that's where his dad's going.
Yeah.
His dad's going back to Atlanta. They left Atlanta. His dad's going back to Atlanta. So he's going to follow him there. And so as he's running away, he is sort of drawn to the voice of Uncle Remus. And he's telling a bunch of kids the story of Brer Rabbit. And so Johnny is like watching from the shadows.
Yeah. Creepily.
Creepily. Like hiding behind a tree.
This is at night, by the way.
It's at night. Yeah, it's night by fireside. And
it's night, but looks like afternoon.
Yeah, because they did that thing where it's they just like black mask. Oh, that's not like the scene. So they just put a shadowy filter over the lens to make it appear, so they can do new because it's not like they can't shoot at night if they're outdoors,
right?
Because I think child labor laws at the time were still like they can't have kids shooting like at night. That's just not going to happen.
John Landis is like, hold my beer.
Yeah. 40 years later, John Landis is
like, I'll show you what child labor laws.
Everyone finds out Johnny is missing now at this point. But he's able to sort of, hide out of sight. Uncle Remus knows he's there. He sees him and finds him and offers to take him back to his cabin.
Which already you're like, oh,
okay, Uncle. Let's he
foppish clothes.
It's friendly ups with Johnny. Well, you're gonna need food if we're gonna go on this big journey. I'll go with you, kind of thing. You need food, so let's go back. And so he takes him to his cabin, and that's where he starts telling him the story of Brer Rabbit earns $1 a minute.
Right.
And it's just an animated story of Brer Rabbit out thinking and tricking the Brer Bear. Like Brer Rabbit gets caught in a trap by Brer Fox. And in order to get down, he tricks Brer Bear to let him down by telling him that he gets paid $1 a minute by hanging out there, keeping an eye out, kind of thing. Yeah. So, and this, this is Uncle Remus trying to
distract Johnny.
Distract Johnny, sort of get his mind off of the thought of running away.
Right. He keeps calling him Honey too.
Yeah, but that's like.
I get it.
Yeah.
Honey,
but but maybe it's like The Shining, where he he knows what his nickname is by accident.
Yeah, maybe it's Doc. Do you ever think about running away to Atlanta?
Yeah. But yeah, because it's Brer Rabbit running away, because you're introduced to Uncle Remus like running into Brer Rabbit as he's hammering up his hole that he lives in. Like he's running away.
Yeah.
But then, this encounter with the fox and bear makes him, second guess that thought. And so, he's planting that seed in the Johnny's head.
I am pleased to, because I thought like, oh God, please don't tell me these characters are voiced by white guys pretending to be black.
Yeah.
No, it's actually black guys.
Yeah.
Voice. I was like, oh thank God. Oh thank God.
Yeah, and none of these are original Disney stories. You must keep that in mind. These are all straight adaptions from old African American folk tales. Right. They were just collected and rewritten by Joel Chandler Harris and the Uncle Remus ones. They existed before that. Just Joel Chandler Harris collected them and made sort of his own stories out of them.
Right.
if you go to the Wikipedia page for Brer Rabbit Earns $1 a Minute, it has a really good artist rendition of the fox and bear, like the bear trapped in the trap, because they're super realistic. It's like a super realistic bear hanging from effectively a noose. Which
I remember him. That's part of the Splash Mountain ride.
It's part of the Splash Mountain. Yeah, he's the fox is yelling at him. So you get down from there. We got to catch that Brer Rabbit.
My sister, we went to Splash Mountain for the first time, and she goes, "There's that damn bear! Look at that damn bear over there in front of children." Just used by Brer Bear.
Yeah.
You go, oh.
Yeah. So this convinces Johnny not to run away anymore. Uncle Remus takes him back to his mom, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought they told you," because he told, because when they were looking for Johnny, they ran into Uncle Remus before Uncle Remus had got to Johnny, but knew where Johnny was, and told him, "You go back and tell her that I have him."
It was that Mom's Mabley?
Yes.
Yeah. She's like the housekeeper or something like that.
Yeah. Or is it Hattie McDaniel?
Hattie McDaniels.
Hattie McDaniel is that. She was Mammy in Gone with the Wind.
So she's an Oscar winner, by the way.
Yes. So she relates to the mother. So the mother isn't freaked out at first, but when nighttime rolls around, she starts freaking out again. And then Uncle Remus shows up with her son and, apologizes, like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she told you he was with me. I was just telling him stories, lost track of time, and everything's fine. Johnny's doing his thing."
The mom's kind of,
I don't know. The mom's, it's a bad character.
She's poorly written. She's like one of the, she's like a love interest in a Universal monster movie. Like, and she has this sort of, she has this uncomfortable aura around her, here. Like, if she was in like Get Out, like it would feel fine. Like she's vaguely insincere at all times. Like, it feels like she's trying not to be racist the entire movie. Like the grandma, clearly she's just a good-hearted soul. Like she doesn't seem like she has a racist bone in her body. No.
The mom feels like she's trying to suppress something the entire movie.
Yeah, she's
like she can't wait to just like dig into Uncle Remus.
She's however the actress play, I don't know her name, but she's super uptight. Like she is uptight. She's kind of a Karen in this movie. Yeah.
So we're about to get into what is the most problematic cartoon. The next cartoon is the singular most problematic cartoon, other than sort of the overall tone of this movie, sort of whitewashing Black history and sort of pretending that Reconstruction era was okay and that everyone lived in symbiosis with one another and are perfectly happy. The way they were, everyone's happy now and they're free and they could do whatever they want. They just happen to live here and they work here still on our plantation. It's perfectly fine. Nothing's weird about this.
No.
So like it paints too pretty of a picture of the era. Like it's a romanticized. It's like pirates and everything. It's what Disney does. It's whatever it is with pirates or the old fairy tales and stuff. You make right down to Disneyland with like Main Street USA and all of that stuff, where you just sort of make everything as perfect as possible. Like this is the idealized version of like this isn't how it was, but this is what the feeling of it was supposed to be. Even if it wasn't, that's what they were. It's the American dream. It doesn't like. It's what Superman stands for, the American dream. But even when America itself isn't the greatest, like what he stands for is good, and it stands for what America is, and that's sort of what they go for a lot of times for this. Is like, even though things weren't great, this is what
this is what it was supposed to be and what the feelings were at the time. And then in cases like this, it just whitewashes a culture entirely, and it's terrible for that way. And between that and this next cartoon, it's those two things that make it sort of unreleasable in modern society. Disney has done much more direct racist things. The crows in Dumbo, the Indians in Peter Pan.
Yeah.
The Siamese cats.
Yeah, Siamese cats. Or the chef, Lady the Tramp. Too.
Yeah. It's like just like they've like this one. They try their very best to not completely fall into stereotypes, but in 1946, they can only go so far because they don't. As even so, as a country, we haven't grown that far into sort of past that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So
yeah,
they try their best, but they're not particularly successful. But it could have been worse. It could have been way worse. But it's still pretty bad in that sense. Yeah. So this is where we're introduced to Ginny, the poor white girl friend.
That Forrest Gump goes to school with.
Yeah, exactly. I said Ginny, not Jenny. They're gonna move to Greenbow, Alabama.
Greenbow. She's gonna take some drugs and with some dude and try to jump off a balcony while Freebird plays.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
One of the best movies of that year, I guess. Great soundtrack. This has a great soundtrack too, but it's well known for its soundtrack.
The only thing they acknowledge.
Yeah, the only thing Disney acknowledges these days. And it's funny because they will acknowledge, like they will just straight up release the James Baskett version of Zippity Doo Dah.
Yeah.
Like just straight up. Like I remember growing up, they put out a book on tape, like a sing-along book on tape. That was Song of the South, and it was just Zippity Doo Dah and some of that stuff. I just recently bought a vinyl record of this next segment, which is great. Not great, but you'll find out why. Anyways, Ginny it gives Johnny a puppy.
Because her brothers are trying to drown it?
Because her brothers are threatening to drown the dog. Yeah. These brothers are in modern times would be like these are all indicators of future serial killers. Perhaps current serial killers because they don't really hide any of their emotions at any given time.
I was going to say what Ginny and her brothers are because I am a Caucasian.
Yes,
they're white trash.
They are very much. They are the 1946 version of white trash.
Yes.
They live in what would be a trailer park of 1946. Just an old beat down shack. I don't know where their house is in relation to this plantation. It is unclear. It seems like it's almost on property. But definitely close enough to where Johnny and Toby are able to make friends with her. But yeah, the brothers, Joe and Jake, they're gonna drown the puppy. So Johnny takes the dog.
Yeah.
And the mom,
if you're nice to him.
Yeah.
He does this weird thing with the dog where he rubs his face on the dog.
Yeah. He's just acting like how he thinks actors act. Like it's like he needs to make it's like stage acting where you sort of have to over exaggerate your emotions because you have to be seen from farther away.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of so it's like instead of just doing like a kiss and a hug, he's doing a lot of exaggerated motions but like it's unnecessary in a movie, but he's a kid and you really can't direct a kid that well. So it's like, oh, fine. That's a good take. Let's just move forward.
You don't have to rub your face on the damn dog.
We don't. Yeah.
It's, I felt bad for that dog.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was clearly a legit puppy.
He's an adorable puppy, by the way.
Absolutely adorable puppy.
Big floppy dog.
Yeah. So Johnny's mom tells him he can't have the dog. So he takes the dog to Uncle Remus. And this is where Uncle Remus goes into the next cartoon. It is Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby. Okay.
I know.
I know. It's hard to go through this because that phrase is going to be said a couple of times, and there's nothing we can really do about saying it. At the time of this movie coming out, it was not an ethnic slur. It was not a racial slur. It was still part of this storyline, of these books, of these stories.
Right.
And you can almost trace back this being used as an ethnic slur or a racial slur to this movie. Not immediately, but not too far after that. If you look up that phrase, still in the dictionary, it is still a difficult problem, which is only aggravated by attempts to solve it.
Yeah.
And secondary definitions are a derogatory term for a black person.
Right.
Certain politicians have used the phrase for that original purpose, the difficult thing. I know John. I think McCain and Mitt Romney have both used it. I think John Kerry got in trouble for using it one time.
Do you remember the old SNL bit with Chevy Chase and Richard Pryor?
Yeah.
Where they're shouting ethnic slurs. That was the first time I ever heard it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like honky. He says tar baby. He goes, dead honky.
Yes. So that's around that time is where it started really becoming a racial slur. But most of the time, its biggest problem is it became one because not necessarily because it was, but because it sounds like one, and it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter at all that the phrase means something else and did mean something else, and very recently meant something else. The fact of the matter is that what it means is what it is now has changed. It's just like anything else. It's just like almost anything else. I can say that word because it means that means female dog, or it means happy, or it means whatever. It's it doesn't, man. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's with
the intent of doing with this intent.
Yeah. Because when some of these politicians have used that phrase in the past, they were using it in the context of a problem that needed to be solved. But so they weren't it wasn't even directed towards a singular person or anything, but it doesn't matter anymore. As of the 70s in particular, it didn't, it changed. It's changed. They use it in the miniseries Roots. They use that phrase, and they'll tell you that's historically inaccurate. They never would have used that phrase back then. It just wasn't. It didn't exist. It wasn't in the lexicon. It wasn't on the same level as the N-word.
Right.
So it didn't exist. Period. In terms of calling somebody that. So that's the truncated history of. I don't want to say it more than I have to. So I won't say it.
The baby.
The baby.
Yeah.
What doesn't help is that there's no way of drawing that without having it look like an Al Jolson film. It looks like a minstrel act.
Yeah, it's very
exaggerated because it's pitch black. You have to paint if you put facial features on it, they're gonna do that whole stupid nonsense. So
it's Google it. I don't want to really want to describe what it looks like. Just Google it.
Yeah, like I said, that vinyl record that I just got has this section translated into a storybook, because it was the 70s and it was still okay, quote unquote.
We don't mean no harm.
Yeah. And also, this is also the section that the majority of Splash Mountain is based off of.
But this got the baby in Splash Mountain.
Yeah, the baby isn't in it, but so the ride starts off doing the first short. So the ride starts off with Brer Rabbit running away.
Right.
And so and so at this point he's doing the reverse psychology. The whole story is about reverse psychology.
Right.
I'm trying to think of, is this the one? So the third cartoon is the one that is the middle of the ride, and this version and the baby scene is the end of the ride. So they've got them out of sequence, but it works better that way thematically, especially in the ride.
Right.
But this one is basically the bear and the fox have captured Brer Rabbit, and they're threatening him with all the different ways they're going to kill him. I could skin you. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, you can skin me, but please don't throw me into that briar patch.
Yeah.
I could eat you. He's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Just don't throw me in the briar patch. And eventually it works, and he gets thrown into the briar patch. And he pretends to be getting hurt. And oh God, because the way he
talks while he's getting hurt. Yes, I know.
Yeah. Okay, so the way he gets captured by Fox and Brer Bear, I guess I return a little bit, is they made this baby out of tar, and he gets into a fight with the baby, and he ends up, oh, you're not going to talk to me, huh? You're too good for me, kind of thing, and then it gets into a tussle with it and gets stuck in it, and so that's when they capture him. So yeah, he does all of his like over the top, very very stereotypical dying nonsense.
Yeah.
And the briar patch is where he's born and bred, so it doesn't really hurt him. He's able to get out of there and get back home in a split second.
The fox and the bear are kind of dumb.
Yeah, they're bumbling goofs. They're the Keystone Cops, It's
the bear especially is just he's played like he's mentally disabled.
Yeah, he definitely is. Yeah. And the fox isn't that much. It's basically a southern version of like Honest John from Pinocchio. Right. Just a very conniving, because it's a fox, and that's the only way foxes are played. Straight through to Zootopia.
Unless you're an indie game developer where a fox is in everything.
Yeah.
Mythical fox.
Oh,
you're laughing because it's true, huh?
Yeah. Anyways, so this story leads Johnny to basically learn the advice of Brer Rabbit, and the brothers come to basically like pound him, just like they're the bullies from The Simpsons, basically, but without Nelson, like the other two bullies, Carney
it's Kearney and Jimbo.
Jimbo, yeah.
He's ragging on your cord.
Yeah, he's ragging on your cord, man.
Yeah.
And so Johnny basically uses the same reverse psychology. It's like, oh yeah, you can do that. Just please don't tell my mom. Don't tell your mom. Just don't tell your mom, please. Which leads them to tell their mom, which leads to them getting whooped because the mom didn't want to hear anything about that dog anymore, and to leave him alone about the dog. So when they tell her, she beats her kids. So
There's also missing where child abuse is taking place in the movie.
Yeah. These kids
probably a reason they're the way they are.
Yeah. Do we ever see the dad?
No.
Is there a dad? No. It's a Disney movie, so there's probably not a dad somewhere. And it's probably the family.
Cigarettes, and some say he's still there.
Yeah, he went to like Johnny's dad. He went to Atlanta to get some cigarettes.
Gotta go to Atlanta, where I don't have a mistress.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. That's probably what Johnny's dad's deal is, isn't it?
Oh heck yeah!
Yeah. Left his family back in his good family, his non-wiener kid.
I got a kid who's not a dork.
Yeah.
That's why she looks so uncomfortable the whole time. Like, ugh. Every time I look at you, I just see your piece of crap father.
At this point, the mom, the kids, in order to get their revenge, tell Johnny's mom about it, and the mom gets upset that Johnny and Uncle Remus kept the dog. Despite her saying no, and Uncle Remus had no idea that the mom said no, which seems a little like, come on, Uncle Remus, you should have picked up on that. Why he brought the dog to you when he did.
Also, kid, don't drag Uncle Remus into this.
Yeah.
Because listen, I know he's not technically a slave.
Yeah.
But
then you get mom over here who's like, don't tell any more stories to my kid.
But she just was like, don't tell. And just with this really clenched jaw on her neck. Just
yeah. She had a real Karen moment here.
Oh yeah.
So Uncle Remus, the one thing, Uncle Remus doesn't have much in this life, but he has his stories, and you're taking his stories away from him.
Yeah.
Not great for him. He's not feeling it.
He's got his stories and his bundle of corn muffins.
Yeah, that's it. That's all he has. It's again, this movie's not that problematic.
That's it.
Anyways, he's happy. He's living on the site where he was enslaved still, living in complete squalor. It's great.
Yeah, he loves it.
Loves it. We're kind of zipping past a lot of the songs, but I want to cover the songs separately because the songs are all very good in here.
We're zippity doo-doing past.
Yeah. Anyways, hey, guess what? It's Johnny's birthday.
Oh, good.
This character that you don't like, it's his birthday now. Johnny has invited Ginny over to his birthday party. Which I'm sure the plantation isn't thrilled about. Like, another poor person coming over here.
The poors.
The poors are coming in. It's like when the Simpsons go to the club, the clubhouse, and they get the. Anyways, Ginny gets mom dresses her up all nice. The brothers clearly not invited. They're not happy about that. They're mad at Ginny for, being happy. So because, they're abused and she's not.
Right.
And so they push her into the mud. And this is where you get another wonderful crying scene of misery.
It's
absolutely terrible crying.
Yeah. Was Walt on the set for this movie?
Yes, he was involved in this.
Was he just like, okay, children, that works?
Yeah, it's fun. I think Walt was a lot of things, but a film director, really, he was not. He wanted to be. It was a dream of his. Like, animation, really, honestly, when he moved to Hollywood, was sort of going to be an ends to a means, as opposed to being his career path. Like, he was good at animation, was fascinated by it, but he wanted to be a movie director. The first things that he did were those Alice shorts,
right?
Which were more live action than animation. I mean, it was a real person but
the little girl that played in those movies was a talented actress. You're poor at this point. The studio's not making any money, and you have to get what you can get. And TV actors are sort of like, and Disney actors are basically what you can get at this time.
Right.
Like the fact that he was able to get anyone that was worth their weight is impressive. Was able to get, he got 2 incredible actors on this movie, but the rest are just sort of mediocre.
That they're dressing. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Like it's this Disney thing with in the 50s and even into the 60s where the child actors are kind of like, ugh.
Yeah,
like Spin and Marty, for instance.
Yeah. Well,
I got Spin and Marty a lot, but it's pretty bad.
It's bad, and I think it sort of comes with, like, it was sort of. It was unclear what, in the 40s and everything. It was sort of unclear, like, what the path to acting would be, because at the time, all the film actors, especially all the huge names, would have gotten their starts in sort of, drama, like both radio and stage. As a child, you're being trained by people where that's how they were trained. So you're training them as stage actors, and they don't really understand the nuance of that. So they're out there doing this over-exaggerated, really bad acting that doesn't work in a movie, but there's kind of no other path for, a little bit more time. So
the formula is for child actors back then is Shirley Temple.
Yeah.
That's the formula.
Yeah.
Just because she's and just overly exaggerating and
Because, like I said, that's the stage way, especially back then. It was, everything had to be over exaggerated because, there was no Jumbotron. There's no
Shirley Temple all in the Our Gang shorts, Little Rascals. That's what it is.
Yeah. So, anyways, Ginny gets pushed into the mud, and Uncle Remus is running away himself now to Atlanta because, he's like he said, without my stories, what do I have? So he's decided that this is it. I don't need to be here anymore. So he's running away. Go to Atlanta, which I guess is just Atlanta is the Florida of then. Like everyone's fleeing to Florida now, but it seems like everyone's fleeing to Atlanta in this.
Yeah. So, the part where he just goes, "I'm going to eat the ATL. Well, things make sense." Like what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I feel like that was I feel like that was you improvising a line.
No, he's 100% said that.
Yeah. Anyways, Ginny now not being able to go to the party because her dress is ruined. Although, she runs off, and Johnny just throws fists with the boys.
Yes.
He gets in a tussle. Gets
first hands.
Yeah. Remus comes in, breaks up the fight, scolds the boys. Johnny runs off to find Ginny. Isn't Ginny a name from like Harry Potter or something? I feel like it's
you think of Ginny Weasley?
I don't know.
That's Ron Weasley's little sister and Harry Potter's future wife.
Yeah, that's right.
Uncultured swine.
My experience of Harry Potter is 2 things: the first movie and the theme park at Universal, Florida. So those are my only 2 experiences with Harry Potter. At least I know that butterbeer is delicious.
Yes.
and I had a chocolate frog. So
yes. But you could wipe your butt with the rest of the Harry Potter.
Yeah. I'll have to look in and see what the author has been up to these days. I don't know what. I have to see. I feel like I haven't heard anything.
Don't do that. Don't do that. She's
She's doing her own thing right now.
Yeah, is she? She's she's an expert in the medical field, sir, and psychology.
She has a friend she has a friend that told her that she's right. So that's how.
Yeah. Take it from me, I'm the person who made a bunch of money by falling ass backwards into this wizard story. Pretty much an expert.
Yeah. So there we go. All you had to do is say nothing and tweet about funny wizard stuff, and everything would have been great for you forever. Now you just couldn't shut your mouth.
Yeah, it's like, I guess. Yeah, it's like, just go by to say Dumbledore's gay. We don't care. Good for him.
Yeah, explain how they used magic to use the bathroom. I don't care about any of that. Just keep your
stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Boy.
Yeah, I'm sure. I wonder. It's like, yeah. I wonder what, like, what other, like, young adult fiction writers are like just sitting back, like, okay. This is our chance to, like, it's like, I don't know. Is Stephanie Meyers problematic? Does she have, or is she just like Twilight's the good stuff and she's just gotta keep it in that lane?
I don't know. I feel like it's like, Beverly Cleary's got some real strong opinions about
immigration. It's not great.
Immigration and police reform. What?
Yeah. You should, she really went off about the post office.
And about, like, why Ramona and Beezus would not wear masks. Dear God in heaven.
Yeah. Anyways, Johnny tries to comfort Ginny by telling her Brer Rabbit story, and he's terrible at it. I think, Johnny does a bad job. He makes her cry more.
Because of his bad narrative.
Like we mentioned earlier, was not reading the room.
You seem upset. Here's a story. I told it bad, and it relates directly to you, but it doesn't solve your problem, so... oh, no. Yeah.
Uncle Remus then shows up and sees, it's like, okay, listen, kid, let a professional come in here.
And she cracks knuckles.
Yeah. Step aside. I got a story to you about the Laughing Place.
Yes.
And so, the Laughing Place is just the Brer Rabbit convincing them not to kill him again, because, that's how these stories are. I'll take you to my Laughing Place.
Which sounds like the Laughing Place sounds like it's 420 friendly, sir.
Yeah. Everyone has a laughing place to go. Anyways, inevitably it just leads to Brer Rabbit tricking Brer Bear to stick his head in a bush that has a beehive in it. Which I do like the line delivery of, there ain't nothing in here but bees.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah. It's hard to keep that voice without
sounding like you're being problematic, which you honestly, by doing it, you are. We're trying to do our best not to, like, use the voices of Fox and Rabbit, because it is very much that sort of, like, that's another major problem with this movie, is that they leaned a little too hard in being sort of like
the caricature
of the language back then. Yeah. Like, it's like, is it faithful? Yes and no kind of thing. It's like, you don't, just because it may be accurate doesn't mean you have to.
just because they are black voice actors, doesn't mean say, hey, turn up the blackness. Like,
no. And you can hear the director, like, explaining how they want it said. You know what I mean? Like, just some straight laced.
Could 40s. You maybe make
just like doing like, can you we need a little more like Aunt Jemima out of this role if you can, or something.
Andy it up a little bit. Yeah. Which
did you see the jazz singer? Can we do something like that?
and these poor guys who, you gotta take what you can get back then.
Yeah, especially as a minority. Yeah, especially as a minority in Hollywood, you had to take what you could get.
It's like you got to eat crap and smile. So
and ask for seconds. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. So we've done a pretty good job at going away from there. Brer Bear is a little different of a situation because it's typical dumb guy voice, but amped up to 11.
Yeah.
Like we said, he receives head injuries. He receives head injuries during this film, so he could be working on a concussion. So
yeah, he's not. He's like a step beyond Pete Puma as far as his
yeah. So I forget what's okay. Where are we at? Laughing Place. Yeah. So So this is sort of the end of the cartoons, and Brer Rabbit finally escapes. After he creates this like Rube Goldberg device of chaos, and he's like, I didn't say I was taking you to your laughing place. I was taking you to my laughing place. Because it was hilarious to him that they were just being attacked by bees and wailing on.
Died.
Yes. He finally makes his way back home, and he was like, "Hey, you know what? The Briar Patch. This is where I was born and bred." So after that, that makes the kids feel a little better.
Yeah.
They get back to the plantation. The mom is mad at Johnny because his birthday party's over. He missed his own birthday party.
He only had one guest. What the hell? Who cares?
Yeah, his dad wasn't there, so who cared? I mean, that was Johnny was super bummed that his dad wasn't going to be there. So she tells Uncle Remus not to spend any more time with my son. Uncle Remus, he's sad now. He had nothing but good intentions, and this white woman just had to scream at me and send this. This isn't even your plantation, and you fired me.
This wasp is screaming at me, blaming me for the fact that she's a terrible parent and her husband is off boning some other chick.
Yeah.
You're the side piece. Also talking to the kid, right? Okay.
So Remus packing his bags, heading out to Atlanta, and Johnny sees this happening. And this is where the movie takes it's barreling towards its climax, and it's the most absurd climax. If you had never seen this movie before, 0%. It is a Chekhov's gun situation. They do introduce the cause of Johnny's potential demise at the beginning of this movie a little bit, but you never really expect it to play into anything, especially to this level. Johnny is running to Uncle Remus, and the bull that they introduced is chasing after Johnny. And obviously there is no special effects to make this work, so they have to keep cutting back to Johnny running and the bull running separately.
Funny thing, they just had him flying through the
air, like a a comedy sketch where they just quickly switch him to a rag doll and then back.
You're kind of rooting for the bull.
Yeah. Anyways, the bull charges him down, and I don't know how he gets Johnny. What happens with Johnny? Because by the time you get to Johnny after the bulls run him down, he's on the other side of the fence, laying face down in the dirt.
Took a sick bump, brother.
Yeah.
Sold that gore.
Yeah. So I don't know if he rammed him through the fence or just gored him with a horn and flipped him into the air and just on the other side of the fence or what. But
kind of sad we didn't.
Yeah. Johnny is now literally on the verge of death.
It's like that gif of Yamcha and the crater.
Yes. Yes. He's just in a bed, eyes closed, everyone's somber around him. Now keep in mind, Remus didn't tell the end of the story of the laughing place yet.
Yeah.
We just sort of jumped ahead just because it's hard to break up the stories like that. So anyways, the dad returns during this scene, seemingly unrelated to Johnny's situation. This is just like, it's like Anakin catching up to his mom in Attack of the Clones.
Right.
He just happens to be there at the worst possible time, or best possible time to watch his son pull through. It depends on how it plays out. Of course, it could be the worst possible time. He may be pulling for Johnny to untether him from this plantation and let him go back to Atlanta. But
you're like, oh man, that sucks. Good thing I have another child at home in Atlanta.
Yeah. Anyway, so like his dad showing up doesn't bring him back to life, but Uncle Remus showing up and finishing the story of the laughing place, sort of magically brings him back to life.
Yeah. He gets Lazarus pitted by the
laughing place. That's what the laughing place is. It's the Lazarus pit. Ra's al Ghul is there to...
Johnny arises, but like without his soul.
Yeah. He's going to slowly go more and more mad until he's in like a Disney pirate movie sometime later on. Anyways.
He is a Treasure Island kid. You're right. Yeah.
He is a Treasure Island kid. Yes.
Oh, good Lord.
Anyways. So yeah, Johnny survives his horrific bull attack. They're all...
I'm sorry.
I know. You never see it coming. It's like it makes no sense, and when it happens, you're just like, "What?"
It'd be kind of funny if, like, just cut that scene, but have Bulls on Parade by Rage.
Yeah. Yes. Anyways, the end of the movie is the children with the puppy has returned. The puppy disappeared. And is never seen again until now. Here's the puppy back with all three of the kids. Uncle Remus sees the kids and is dumbfounded when he sees Brer Rabbit.
Did I just make these things come to life?
Yeah, Uncle Remus. There's an old sort of like movie trope. Again, this is going to be another one of those inappropriate phrases that I'm sorry I have to say, but it's a common trope, and it's
mythical. Yeah,
it's the magical Negro thing where it's always a supporting, like it's a supporting character to a white protagonist that seems to have some sort of deep insight or mystical powers that are like, you know, traditional. It was
Legend of Bagger Vance.
Yeah. You know, Spike Lee did a thing with it. Legend of Bagger Vance, The Green Mile. Yeah. So yeah, it's a trope, and this is very much like this ending sort of really leans into that trope. Unfortunately, or it sort of makes Uncle Remus sort of almost supernatural in a sense.
Actually, the origin of the trope, if you think about it.
Yeah, most certainly is. Well, not most certainly, but like it's definitely one of the earliest sort of film examples of that. So, right. So they're walking off into the sunset with all the cartoon characters with the zippity doodah, and everything wraps up in a happy ending. I sort of thought, like, is this Uncle Remus dying?
Right?
It's
or Johnny's dying, and he just imagines this.
Yeah, it's like it very well easily could be, but it is a Disney movie, so while they may be sad and chaotic, they never have a sad ending. So it really is just them walking off in the sunset with the cartoons.
I assume they're leading him into a big vat of dip. Just gonna throw them in there. Oh my God, it's Dip.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely Toontown. They do appear. I'm pretty sure Brer Fox and Brer Bear appear in Toontown, I think. In like the ending scene of yeah.
Smile,
yeah.
They
Anyways, do. James Baskett plays Uncle Remus, obviously, but he's also Brer Fox. And you have Bobby Driscoll, Luana Patton, Hattie McDaniel. Let's see, Lucille Watson. She was just another one of those, classical actresses of the time. It's a decent enough cast.
Sure, it's like the Marx Brothers movies where you don't care about the supporting cast.
Yeah,
you don't.
Yeah. So, yeah, like we were saying earlier, this movie was post World War II. They were getting they were still getting no foreign market money. They didn't make any money during the bulk of the war because all of their studio was taken over by the military to protect, I think, Lockheed. And so it was just a propaganda studio, and all the money they were making for movies was sort of given to them by the military,
right?
To make that stuff. There were very few things being made at the time by the studio. The only like profit they made, like in 45, was like a re-release of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Right.
And in early 46, they re-released Pinocchio as well. So that was sort of their money makers. So in 1946, the studio had to fire pretty much half of their workforce.
It's DC.
Yeah. Yeah. And, on top of that, you're still only a few years removed from the union, the strike of 41.
Yeah.
That they were still dealing with. So Disney was just like, I guess I'm just going to do live action at this point. So Disney's contract with RKO was for animation. So they weren't going to be able to distribute animation through RKO. Or live action through RKO. It had to be animation. They were able to make this one of like an animation choice. Like they were basically able to convince RKO to release this because there was a significant amount of animation in it.
Right.
Because
but you think of the
films,
old short RKO.
Yeah, because films that combined animation with live action counted as animation for RKO. So that's also why they made Saludos and Three Caballeros, because you were able to combine live action, and so it was cheaper to make it that way. And after the success of Snow White, Disney started scooping up anything and everything they could get that was sort of exploitable to make a movie on. So that's when he ended up purchasing the rights to the Joel Chandler Harris's family for $10,000 in 1939.
Which is not a small chunk of change now.
In 1939, that would be a little over it'd be a little over $180,000 today.
Right.
So, by the time these movies were sort of done with all of its theatrical runs, The Song of the South, which would have been in the mid to late 80s, it had earned $300 million. So, it did pretty good on the overall purchasing of the rights.
For a movie that was never distributed worldwide. Media.
Yeah. So 39 is when they started working on this movie. It was fully animated when they first started working on it, which makes sense. Because it's a lot of talking animal movies, or shorts, and that was Disney's forte. They considered them to be just sort of animated shorts, and one of them was like there was one that ended up not going into production that they were going to do, like Brer Rabbit Rides the Fox, which is a terrible title for many reasons.
I'm sorry.
But it really is what it sounds like too. It's Brer Rabbit tricks Brer Fox to so he can ride him like a horse.
Okay.
So
Again, Brer Rabbit's clever, and that was the whole.
Yeah. In this little news segment over here, it says there was in one script treatment, Uncle Remus gathered the critters for a prayer meeting to encourage them to build a church that would bring peace between predators and prey.
Holy crap!
Yeah, could you imagine seeing that? It would have felt like in like an A24 horror film. It would have been like Midsummer or something.
Gathered them together. Oh my god!
In another treatment of the script, the reason for all of Brer Rabbit's troubles with Brer Fox and Brer Bear was going to be a gambling addiction. I'm dead serious too. Like, that would have been so good.
Well, no, it would have been bad because I guarantee you they would have made it dice or something, and it would have been
sitting in an alley shooting dice.
Yeah, they would have gone hard on it, and it would have been
November of 1940, Disney visited the Harris home, and he told Variety that he wanted to get an authentic feeling of Uncle Remus country so we can do a faithful job as possible to these stories, which is not great.
Uncle Remus country,
which is Atlanta, by the way. So, and keep in mind, this is 1940 Atlanta, so
it's like, well, didn't you kind of grow up in an area that's like this country?
Yeah, I mean, like, you Mississippi, like Missouri.
You know what rural America is, sir.
Yeah. Anyways, Roy, the money man. Really the reason why most Disney stuff exists in some way, shape, or form is Roy O. Disney. Because Walt was the creative juices, and Roy was the money man and the negotiator.
Right.
And Roy thought, like, this story's not big enough for a budget of over $1 million. I don't know what you and it's like 25 minutes of animation, basically. And Walt wanted to do like a series of Uncle Remus films if the first was like successful, which there's the alternate universe where there's like a Song of the South franchise.
Right. And they just keep rebooting it.
Yeah. But inevitably they decided that a third of the film would be animated and the rest would be live action. So that's, 1/3 of this movie is animated.
Because it's about 90 minutes.
Yeah. Disney wanted the screenplay written by the studio animators, but he looked for professional writers, I think because he knew that they probably wouldn't come at it from a respectful angle. So a professional writer might be able to come at it from... Think about it this way, that this was in 1940s. This was the respectful version of this film.
Yeah.
If you let these animators sort of make it themselves, it probably would have been like genuinely, thoroughly offensive.
Right. But it's funny. It's funny. Get it? It's funny at the time.
So Disney ended up hiring a consultant that was his name was Clarence Muse, and he was the first African American to appear in a starring role in a film. He's if you're going to hire somebody, that's like to sort of be your anchor to sort of like slow you down and say, listen, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's a good person to bring in. Unfortunately, yeah.
It's Muse,
yeah. Unfortunately, the guy that was the screenwriter, Dalton Raymond, like didn't listen to anything, pretty much ignored every suggestion that he gave. So so he quit. And he wrote a letter. Muse wrote a letter to editors of like African American based like papers and things at the time that basically saying like this film isn't going to turn out great if they're not listening to black voices in this. So Disney though says that he was just bitter because he wanted the role of Uncle Remus and they didn't hire him for it because he was lobbying for the role, but they didn't give it to him, which is very much gaslighting.
Yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah,
it's whataboutism.
Yeah. They also Disney also denied requests by the NAACP for drafts of the film, to see treatments of the film. So that's not a good look at the gate.
Nope.
No. Raymond never wrote a screenplay before this. So it was one of those things where it's just like, oh boy, we really hired a bad guy to be working on this.
You're on your high horse for what reason?
Yeah, for what reason? Yeah. They hired Maurice. I don't know what his last name is. It's Rapf, R-A-P-F. And he was writing for live action movies at the time. And they hired him to work with Raymond and his co-writer to make a shootable screenplay. That's what Disney's words were. Basically, they hired him to temper Raymond because because according to Neil Gabler, who wrote a substantial Disney biography, it was to temper Raymond's white Southern slant.
Dear God.
Yeah. One good thing that came from it was Rapf was able to tone down the language significantly. He was able to. There were two phrases that are not great that he got taken out of the script. Darky, I'm sorry for having this. Yeah, and massa. That was in the original script, and Rapf was like, nope.
Also, why would that be in there if they're not slaves anymore?
Well, that was sort of the thing. So he had to update the language to make it very clear that they weren't. That this isn't like Raymond was clearly writing a script for a Civil War era, a pre-Civil War era America, and that was never the intention. And that's why Disney needed to bring in people to like, you have to fix this, please.
Why don't I just fire that guy? I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I think eventually they kind of did. Well, not really, but like, because Rapf eventually leaves for various reasons, obviously. And they did delete a raccoon character, which, as you would assume, did not have the greatest name.
Yep. Okay. I can already.
Yeah. They had to make sure it's like, we have to pay these people. They are not slaves. And apparently in an early version of the script, Uncle Remus says to Johnny, after he does the like, I cannot, like, I can't read stories to you anymore. After he's in that stage of his story, he's like, I'm a free man. I don't have to take this. Which,
I wish I left that in.
I would have loved it. Yeah. So yeah, it was not. For a lot of the problems of this story comes from the fact that it has a lot of people competing to try and tone it down, but also not tone it down. So
yeah,
it's not. When you read about like the sort of history behind it, it's not a great look at all. Especially with all the people that are sort of being like taken off the project. You have Clarence being taken off the project. You have Raph being taken off the project, and eventually he does say that after every conference they had about the movie, it's like, well, I think Disney was always like, well, I think we've got this licked now. Like we figured it out. We've cracked the code. We know how to make this movie now.
Yeah.
You were never going to make anyone happy. But they did end up in the end. They sent the script out to like outside fields to kind of give it a look through after it was all said and done. And they kind of got a mix of no, this is fine, and a little bit of like this isn't fine, but I think the positives outweighed the negatives in terms of response, so they went with it. It wasn't until 1944 that the title of the movie changed from Uncle Remus to Song of the South.
Yeah,
which that's a long time just having that called Uncle Remus.
And uncle is a term that got used for.
Yeah. So not great. Again, not a great look.
Yeah, not a great term.
No. What was it? So James Baskett. I think he's the best person to talk about in terms of like the cast, because he did a fantastic job on this, and it's a hard role to sort of go into, because you are going to have to sort of dance. Unfortunately, and it's not great, but he signed up with Disney because he responded to an ad because he was going to be the voice for a butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
His quote was, "I thought that maybe they tried to furnish the voice of Uncle Remus's animals." Baskett is quoted saying, "Upon review of his voice, Disney wanted to meet Baskett personally and had him tested for the role of Uncle Remus." So, he tested out for one of the critters, and Disney loved his voice and wanted to actually meet him. Because he still needed his Uncle Remus. It's the most important role of the movie,
right?
So he did get the part for the butterfly, and the Brer Fox and Uncle Remus. So that because he is one of the butterflies in the movie.
Yeah, he brought some gravitas to the character.
Yeah. And he did some of the lines for Brer Rabbit.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of moments in the movie where he's also Brer Rabbit, which is kind of neat. He's really got a versatile little voice for, all things considered, because you don't
voice.
Yeah, he doesn't really like the Uncle Remus and Brer Fox really don't sound a lot alike very much. He does a really good job.
Not at all. He
does a great job. It's kind of a shame that it didn't really lead to a whole lot more for him in that field, but he succeeded majorly in this role. Disney himself loved Baskett and told his sister, Disney's sister, Ruth Disney, that Charles Baskett is the best actor to have been discovered in years. Absolutely loved him. Even the movie was done and out, and Walt Disney kept a friendship with him. He genuinely loved Baskett.
Mm-hmm.
And Disney personally campaigned to have Baskett be given an Academy Award for his role in this. He says he did it with almost any direction. He just was able to take on this role. He was able to just be this role. And it succeeded. In 1948, he received an honorary Oscar for his role in Song of the South, which is fantastic.
It looks like he got it while he was still alive, he was an older gentleman already. So
yes. And then after he died, his wife sent a letter to Walt to let him know that his friendship was always appreciated. Bobby Driscoll sucks, and we're not going to talk about him.
Hey.
The budget for the movie was $1.35 million, which is absolutely insane for 45.
Yeah.
The director of the animated features were Wilfred Jackson, who was a significant Disney animated shorts director. And he did a lot of sequence directing for, like he was the director for A Night on Bald Mountain, Ave Maria, and Fantasia. He directed Melody Time, Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp. Now, all of these are after, everything Melody Time, Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Lady and the Tramp. These are all after Song of the South.
Right.
Before that, he was like sequence directors for like Snow White and Pinocchio and Dumbo. Saludos Amigos, he directed short. And he did a lot of Silly Symphonies and Mickey Mouse cartoons. And he was one of the instrumental minds behind creating the system that let them sync music to Steamboat Willie.
Okay.
That works because of work that he personally did on that. And I think one of the best Silly Symphonies is The Old Mill.
Yeah,
and that's him. That's one of the ones that he directed. So, he is obviously a top tier Disney director. So him directing the animation sequences in this was a good deal.
And the Night Old Man did the animation.
Yes, obviously. Yeah. The animation is spot on perfect. It's beautiful.
Yep.
Despite its content, it's all so well done and gorgeous looking, and it doesn't feel cheap like some of the animation. Like if you go back and watch Melody Time, a lot of Melody Time feels really cheap. This doesn't. This feels like the bigger picture. Like if it didn't have live action segments, it would have been in place of Melody Time.
Yeah, and that's to the point where they got
or Make Mine Music. It was Make Mine Music. That was 46. Yeah.
The animation segments got shown on television. Over the years, like piecemeal.
Yeah. So yeah, it's great. They filmed this movie in Arizona.
Filmed in Arizona, raising boys.
King
Todd.
They built a plantation in cotton fields in Arizona for the filming of this.
Huh?
Yeah. And when they needed atmosphere shots, they went to Samuel Goldwyn's studio in Hollywood for a lot of the atmosphere shots. They misframed or misblocked the final scene where they're doing the zippity doo dah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you watch it, it's a really close zoom on Uncle Remus at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, because they didn't block the scene properly. So when they pull out, it's close up so they can cover the lights that are in there with cardboard.
Right.
And then you can slowly remove the cardboard from the lights when he begins singing, and there you have him mixed in with the beautiful singing. And so it made for a really iconic looking scene. Like their folly made for really a beautiful scene in the movie. Probably, I was gonna say it's probably one of the better scenes in the movie altogether.
Yeah. If you could just see like an exclamation mark pop up of his head, like he's like like he has a revelation.
Yeah. So that's good. Anyways, music. There are several songs in this movie that are all great in a way, but there's 2 or 3 that are like top of the line. There are 9 songs altogether throughout the film. Some of them are, and there's some reprises of some of the songs.
Right.
But
Uncle Remus Said was a song that's in there. It's a cute little song.
That's when Johnny runs away, and yeah.
Yeah. And you have the actual like title song. There's a song called "Song of the South" in it. You're interested, but "Zippity Doo Dah" is obviously the marquee song of the movie. Like it has penetrated pop culture in a way I don't think they even ever expected.
If you had to list 10, that's even 5 like iconic Disney songs.
Yeah,
it's probably be in there.
Yeah, even something is the thing about Zippity Doo Dah is it fills in this void that Disney is really good at, which is like nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you have Zippity Doo Dah, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, and Bippity Boppity Boo.
Yeah.
Like these are 3 huge songs that have these utter nonsense, but they've just penetrated pop culture in such an insane way that like to the point where people are like, well, we can't sing Happy Birthday, so we'll do Happy Birthday sung to Zippity Doo Dah at the Red Robin and call it a good time for all.
Bottomless fries.
So it's funny. Well, I remember it was like Zippity Doo Dah, Zippity A, my oh my, it's your birthday today.
Are we gonna get demonetized for this?
No, because Happy Birthday is back in the public domain, so it's
okay.
So unfortunately, Zippity Doo Dah, I screwed up something there we go. Zippity Doo Dah, you know how Turkey in the Straw is having some issues right now,
right?
It's because it's another variation of that song is I'm not going to say it. It's Zip Raccoon. So, but because it's you know that's a variation of the song that's popular, and it's sort of assumed that this song is sort of kind of based off of that because Zippity Doo Dah, Zip, you know, Turkey in the
Turkey Straw reminds me of Steamboat Willie though. Huh.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, boy, it's a good song. I like the introduction to the song. It's like the way he delivers it with like, well, a Zippity Doo Dah day is just one of those days where you can't, like, what exactly? You can't.
You set narrative.
Yeah. You can't sit around we can't talk without a song coming right out of your mouth. Zippity Doo Dah, zippity.
Yeah.
My oh my, what a wonderful day.
And it's I mean it's
an earworm.
Yeah, and it's like it's impossible not to feel like, oh, okay, you sing it, you feel good.
It's the truth. It's actual. Everything is satisfactory. Love that. That's stupid.
It's a truth.
Yeah, Mr. Bluebird on my shoulder. There is a song. Okay, so you remember the song that Hattie McDaniel sings that sooner or later that man is gonna come home?
Yes.
That was originally in Splash Mountain. It was the scene where the mom is singing to the babies.
Okay.
Where it's like it was originally sooner or later that rabbit is gonna come home.
Yeah.
Instead of now where it's I forget what it is now at this point, but it's not that anymore. But like there is some versions of it, like they put out like a 50th anniversary box set of Disney music, and it has the original version of Splash Mountain on it with that version of the song, and it has the original version of Pirates of the Caribbean on it too, which is very fascinating. Like back when it had like the pirate who like it had a naked woman in one of the whiskey barrels and he was holding her dress. That was one of the things that they had to change later on, and the dialogue is very terrible.
Yeah.
I be willing to share, he says, and it's not great.
No.
Yeah. So was Let the Rain Pour Down is one of the songs on here, which is a really good song. Unfortunately, and Everybody's Got a Laughing Place, which also appears in Splash Mountain.
Yes,
so
it is.
Everybody has a laughing place to go home.
There's an animatronic of Brer Rabbit
Yeah.
Or it's an animatronic or just a porcelain statue or something.
Yeah. No, it's animated. At the end when he's it's a mixture throughout the ride.
Right. But I can't remember if I think he moves. Yeah.
I think he moves on I think just the figures being moved, maybe not necessarily the whole animatronic itself.
Right.
Film made its premiere November 12th, 1946 at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. And that was not the best choice to do that, because the star of your movie is James Baskett.
And is not allowed to go inside.
And it's not allowed to go inside because Atlanta was still racially segregated in 1946.
Yeah.
So, so I don't know. That was just, I feel like you could have just been like, well, maybe we just won't put it there then. I get the idea of wanting to do it in Atlanta. I really do. Yeah. But that is just another one of those tone deaf sequences. Like, I don't think he did it with any ill intentions. It was just sort of like oblivious to sort of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
It's like, even if he could go inside, he can't use the same washroom as you.
Yeah.
It's like,
Walt actually left after he gave the introduction for the movie and went back to his hotel because he didn't want to be there, because he didn't know how it was going to be received, and he just didn't want to see it with an audience. He just couldn't bring himself to see it with an audience, because leading up to it, obviously, controversy. Its release was going to be controversy. There was going to be controversy because the star of the movie couldn't be at its own premiere. It was just nothing. It was just a mess. It was re-released in theaters in 1956 for its 10th anniversary. It was released in 1972 as the 50th anniversary of the studio. 1973, it was a double bill with the Aristocats.
Oh, double racism.
Yeah. It was released in 1980 for the 100th anniversary of the Uncle Remus Joel Chandler Harris book. In 1986 for the 40th anniversary of the movie, and that's the last time it was seen in theaters in North America.
When did the Laserdisc come out?
I will look that up in a minute here. Anyways, and it was also a cross promotion because that's when they had started working on Splash Mountain.
Right.
Splash Mountain doesn't open for a while still, but yeah. The movie, as early as 2006, was being played in European, especially on BBC, in its entirety. Up to about 2006 was sort of the last time that was seen in Europe on television, which is very recent when you think about it. Like,
yeah, it's 14 years ago.
Yeah, that's, WWE had just brought back Degeneration X, and
yeah, they sure did.
Yeah, and they removed the baby scene. And aired it on the Disney Channel during its Lunchbox programming block that lasted in the 80s and 90s until December 18th, 2001 was like sort of last time that block was existing. So it was very successful. It was a very successful movie. It had tons of other stuff come off of it. There was Uncle Remus and Tales of the Brer Rabbit Sunday comic strip that was released, which is incredible. It lasted until a decade, until the 70s. Brer Rabbit has also appeared in other Disney stories. Floyd Norman, who is one of the Disney's first African American animators. He actually did in the 80s a not Uncle Remus, a Zippity Doo Dah Christmas, which for the Disney Christmas newspaper strip, and that actually did get re-released at one very recently. There was like a Christmas Classics thing. No, it wasn't re-released. That's right. There was the Christmas Classics, but it was cut out because Disney is touchy about all of it except for the ride up until very recently.
Didn't Floyd Norman was one of the people who was like kind of like, yeah, no, they should put it out.
Oh, he loves the movie.
Yeah, I know. Because I remember that Walt Disney bio.
Yeah. No, Floyd Norman absolutely loves the movie. There's a book, a really, really, really good book called Who's Afraid of Song of the South. Mm-hmm. And it is sort of a significant history. I think it's written by Jim Korkis, who's a Disney historian. He does a lot of Disney books, some great Disney books. And he does the introduction to the book. It was one of those things where he would rent the movie when he could, like from the studio, and like it was like, take it home for Christmas and have the family sit around and watch Song of the South. He's definitely a proponent of releasing that movie,
right?
And it's it's a voice, a person of color who has a positive opinion of the movie, but that's a voice. Just because you work for Disney doesn't mean you work. People have to respect everybody's voice.
You don't represent all African Americans.
Yeah, so it's like it's very much like if Disney wanted to, they could play the I have a black friend and he says it's okay kind of thing. But they don't. I mean, I we'll get to that in a minute. But anyways, here's home media. It's never been released in the United States on home video. Period. I think in now I can't. I have to actually look it up. Song of the South. It has to be 86 when that Laserdisc came out. Why did I just put Song of the South Laser and not finish that?
Hell yeah, that sounds
Song
awesome.
of the South Laser. Like you go to the Laser Dome and it's the soundtrack to Song of the South done to
or it's Uncle Remus with cybernetic upgrades.
Oh yeah, like it's Westworld, but the original Michael Crichton movie, Westworld, not the. Oh boy, the prices for the Laserdisc for Song of the South have really gone up in recent years. None of these say what year it is. Boy, $500, huh? Not gonna spend that. That's for sure.
That's like an MVS cart.
Yeah. I could buy King of Fighters 98 for that.
It's like I get that or Mark of the Wolves.
Yeah, I need Windjammers more than I need that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was released in Europe. Actually, if you look, an actual quote from Michael Eisner was the film would not be receiving a home video release in the U.S. due to not wanting to have a disclaimer and fearing backlash and accusations of racism. However, he favored its release in Europe and Asia where, quote, end quote, slavery is a lesser controversial subject.
I mean, we had to learn it from somewhere, and it was Europe.
Yeah. Eisner had to put in the request not to have Uncle Remus appear at the theme parks. So at the could you imagine just so in the ride it's Brer Frog. That's the narrator of the ride, basically.
Like we've been like walking around the park.
Yeah, but I mean a presence in general. No Uncle Remus presence in general.
Yeah,
that includes the ride. Keep in mind, at one point early in Splash Mountain, because it's called Splash Mountain because they wanted to cash in on the success of the movie Splash. So they were going to put a mermaid animatronic in there.
Mm-hmm. Daryl Hannah was going to be there.
Yes, Daryl Hannah was actually going to be in Splash Mountain, sort of, at a point. None of the Imagineers were like, "Oh yeah, we'll look into that." No, we're not putting Daryl Hannah in this ride. But you can see Uncle Remus quotes like carved and stuff and like plaques and stuff in the ride. Yeah. So you got that.
There would be no good way for them to have an Uncle Remus walking around the park that just, and even just the interactions with, oh man.
Oh no. There would be some sort of like, the attraction would be like, a story time thing where you just send the kids down and have Uncle Remus tell them stories, and it would be terrible. You would just sit there and see this black man dressed as effectively a slave telling stories to children. Not great.
Predominantly white children.
Yes, definitely predominantly white children, and just it would look terrible.
Yes, and how would you feel as a black person walking around the park as a guest?
Seeing this foppish old black man dressed up like that, having to talk the way Uncle Remus has to talk.
No, there's no good way to do that.
There's no safe, good, acceptable way of handling that.
So just don't even bother.
Yeah, so Eisner left and Iger takes over, and Iger's asked about it, and he's like, nope. He says it's antiquated and fairly offensive. I would say moderately offensive more than fairly offensive, but again, I'm a white guy, so my mileage varies significantly.
If Bob Iger thinks it's offensive.
Yeah, I just got done listening to Disney More again, and it's great because there's a lot of Michael Eisner, like towards the end, where everyone's like, you have to choose a successor. You have to choose a successor. And he's like, no.
No, I don't.
Nobody's asking Rupert Murdoch to find a successor. So I'm not either. I'm young. I'm like 100 years younger than Rupert Murdoch. And like Iger was sort of in the position of being the successor, but he keeps digging at Iger with like, Iger would be terrible at this job. He's absolutely not creative in any way, shape, or form. And it's funny because Iger truly has proven to not be particularly creative.
History's borne out.
Eisner was right in this particular situation. But, he's a great CEO, but Disney has never been run by a CEO. So the one person who would sort of be on the side of releasing the movie would be Roger Ebert, because he is very much against any of that kind of like anything that could vaguely even be taken as censorship. Yeah. But even he's like, nah, this one shouldn't be released. That's good. Good on them. He says he supported non-release, claiming that most Disney films become part of the consciousness of American children who take the films more literal than adults do. And so,
yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, but you can still definitely buy the soundtracks and tracks. There was like sing-along VHS tapes and stuff in America that featured clips from the movies and stuff. VHS and Laserdisc releases in Europe and Asian countries. In the United Kingdom, it was released on VHS in 83, 86, 91, 92, 96, and 2000.
Wow.
So in Japan, 90 and 92, and that's basically it. Additionally, under Japanese copyright law, the film is now part of the public domain in Japan. So that's cool.
That's a version I saw that came from like Comic-Con or something.
Yeah, everyone who owns this tends to own a copy that's burned on DVD from Comic-Con. Yeah. The guy has, the KTMA era Mystery Science Theater episodes and cartoons that you look at and you're like, capital critters.
Yeah. and Roger Corman's Fantastic Four.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
In a different time, in a different era, that'd be the place where you'd find like, oh, this is the original cut of Justice League.
Oh God.
As opposed to that, as opposed to bootlegs being officially released now.
Right. Can't wait to not watch that.
In 2017, Whoopi Goldberg was inaugurated as a Disney legend, and she wanted Song of the South to be re-released.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was a big deal that she said that, and it sort of brought the discussion back up. And then again, Iger's like, no, we're not re-releasing Song of the South. It's not happening. It's just not happening.
And again, Whoopi Goldberg doesn't represent all black people.
Yeah. Whoopi Goldberg barely represents herself these days. So.
Yeah. Oh, the lady from The Voice? Okay,
yeah. And it's definitely not on Disney Plus. Now, Robert Iger is on his way out. You know, they've sort of... He announced him leaving, stepping down in February. I remember it happened while I was at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like a month later, is when everything went to hell, and everything started.
What happened?
Some guy got sick, and everyone like got weird about it. That's all I remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I can't remember the fine details about it.
Oh, everything's fine with me.
Yeah. But yeah. So Iger's sort of like, well, I'm not stepping away right now. But. It is unclear what the future holds for Song of the South, because, you know, a new CEO is not Bob Iger and doesn't have to adhere to what Bob Iger said. It's not, you know, unless Bob Iger's contract was like George Lucas's, where it's like, yeah, you can have this, but you can't release the original versions.
I don't know that that's a hill anybody would want to die on.
Yeah, you never. I mean, like there's a weird route to do it, but I don't think Disney Plus is the way to do it, because it's like that's because, you know, we've had these conversations very recently with the launch of all these new streaming platforms. Yeah. You know, Gone with the Wind, with its whole thing, had to, like, they removed it for a while and brought it back with a disclaimer. You know, this episode itself, this podcast episode, is going to have a disclaimer at the front.
I mean, they have a disclaimer from Hamilton, so
yeah, it's in front of Hamilton and everything. Like, but I don't think a disclaimer is good enough for this movie, because there's so much. I think this would be better received if there was sort of a documentary. Like, maybe not necessarily release the movie, but release sort of like the making of and sort of like a historical piece about it, showing parts of the movie and explain, because it is a significant role, and it's sort of erasing James Baskett's like Academy Award and everything from all of this. There's something that Disney could do to sort of appreciate the history without glorifying its content.
Right.
And I don't think just releasing the movie with a like when WWE puts up, like whenever you start up an episode of WCW Nitro, it has to give you a warning, like, these are actors playing roles on TV, and you're like, oh, this one has Chris Benoit.
This has a Chris Benoit match. Yeah.
But
then it's just because you can't just go like, oh, we're gonna trot like Don Cheadle out there to talk about like what this means, and
that's not a great way, because, you know, it was acceptable for the World War II shorts when they did them release the Disney Treasures on the Front Lines, because before, like, when you start the movie up, before you get to the main menu, you get Leonard Maltin there, like, explaining the history behind it, explaining what's going on, and sort of showing clips and stuff and saying like, hey, this is not cool, but, you know, but people's tempers got the better of them in 1944.
Right.
And, you know, he does a good job at sort of explaining that stuff. But for a movie, it's hard to sort of contextualize, because from the outset, if you just watch this movie, with the exception of the baby scene, nothing is explicitly racist. Like I said, you have to sort of be
sort of in touch with like what makes it racist. Like if you're just some sort of normal run-of-the-mill white dude who's just watching it, it may not be bad. It's not going to be like the middle part will be like, I don't know about this, but everything else is like, I mean, it's a little stereotypical, but it's not necessarily bad. But that's privilege talking.
Sure.
And so from the outset, and if you even just like the Disney Channel run of it, cut out that middle section, it comes across as just sort of okay. Like it doesn't come across as horribly racist, even though it is.
At worst, it's tone deaf.
Tone deaf, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's really at best it's tone deaf. At worst, it's miserably racist. But the intention was never to be racist. The intention was noble in a sense. Because Disney wants to sort of adapt different cultures and make them available. I mean, like that's Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros. The goal was to sort of introduce people to another cultures and stories of another culture, and I feel like that's what the intention was. But it's hard to do that in a tasteful way in some instances. Like Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros was done in a much more tasteful way, not necessarily a more entertaining way. But a much more tasteful way.
But like Moana is a tasteful way. Of
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or, Princess and the Frog.
Princess and the Frog.
It's not great. There's still some problematic issues with Princess and the Frog, but
right. But I use Moana as the example because it has predominantly like a cast that's like South Pacific and this one is just tone deaf and
here's my question for you.
Okay.
Do you want them to release it on Blu-ray or
would you
buy it if it came out?
The collector in me would absolutely buy it and would have it. But I don't think they have to or should. I agree. I would buy it simply out of the sake of that's what I do. And it would be nice. It would be nice to have that gap filled. Maybe never even, probably would never even watch it, but just to this is a piece of Disney history. I like Disney history. I've got a lot of weird Disney history stuff. I love that On the Front Lines box set. And it's actually actively way more racist than Song of the South is. It's being actively racist its intention is to be racist.
The completionist Jew is like, I would buy it, but I would, it's not a hill I would die on. I would never say, I would never say, they should release it. Cause I don't think they should. I don't think it's not necessary. It's not, if people don't see it, it's not like they're losing out on some sort of piece of art or it is art. It's beautiful. James Baskett's wonderful in it. And it's kind of but with Zippity Doodah still existing and still being able to relatively easily see that part, that's all you really need to really get the sort of enjoyment full enjoyment out of this. And I think that's good enough. Yeah.
And with Splash Mountain, I'll be bummed. Splash Mountain's going away.
Yeah. I'll miss Zippity Doodah, but I get why.
Yeah. I will never argue against that. I'm always happy with Disney updating things. That's the heart and soul of the park. It always was. Walt himself always wanted to plus things. That was always his story, because he was so happy with the theme park, because he said, I just finished a movie and that's it. It's done. I can't touch it again. With the theme park, I can keep plussing it. I can keep adding to it. I can expand. It can grow. It's a living thing. It's never going to be finished. And that's why he fell in love with the theme park. And that's why he sort of fell out of love with movies. Because that's what he wanted. The cartoons were something that he could create in his own vision. And once it was done, and that sort of eventually took a toll on him. The theme park was never done. I mean, the theme park essentially had a second reopening, and the park opened in 1955, and it sort of had a massive overhaul in 1959. And a lot of stuff got changed. A lot of stuff got updated. There was new stuff, and it just kept doing that from there on out. Nothing's ever stayed the same at Disneyland. Very few things are how they were when they opened. They add special effects to certain rides. Like only a handful of things are this. The train isn't even the same, and that was the mark because the train has. They added the dioramas to it. They've changed the track layout because of Star Wars, and everything changes. And I'm fine with that. Pirates of the Caribbean, one of my favorite rides. They added Johnny Depp to it when that was a success, and it didn't ruin the ride. It just made it different. They recently changed it to change the bride auction to just be a normal auction with replacing the redheaded bride to instead of being somebody being auctioned as a redheaded pirate. So
they had the lady chase the guy now. It's
the
reverse.
Twilight Zone turned into Guardians of the Galaxy for the better.
Yeah. You get the sense that Walt at his heart was a tinkerer anyway.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense. But that aside, changing things for the purposes of being more inclusive is not a bad thing.
No. And the only thing that needs to be protected is the park itself, really. Like anything that's in there is fair game. I would be very upset if they got rid of the Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean. But at the same time, like that's the nature of Disney. There are things there that I can never do again that I miss dearly. I dearly miss the original Space Mountain. I think the original Space Mountain was better than the modern Space Mountain, but it's gone and it's never coming back. I like the original Star Tours more than the modern Star Tours, but I still like modern Star Tours, but I'm never gonna get that back.
We're not gonna see Captain EO at the park again.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, we will not see Captain EO again.
Yeah, it had its one comeback, and that was the most they could muster. There's just things that are going to come and go at those theme parks. California Adventure has changed the most out of everything, and they keep shutting stuff down and bringing in new stuff constantly. They're tearing out whole lands to, Disney didn't really get rid of a whole lot to add Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge. They got rid of a petting zoo, and that was basically it. And that's fine. They don't want to change if they don't have to, but they have to sometimes. They tore the original Fantasyland to the ground in the 80s and rebuilt it. It's not because remember the original Fantasyland was like an old circus almost. It was like tents and stuff, and then like in the 80s they rebuilt it to be much more, 1800s, 1700s like European brickwork and stuff, to be in line with the castle.
They could tear down Toontown. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah. I'm disappointed that it's still there. Honestly, we were supposed to be getting that Mickey Mouse ride in Toontown.
Yeah.
But with the world being what it is, and Disney
hemorrhaging money,
and Disney losing like $2 billion this year on park closures alone.
So they're going to get it back by charging $30 a room.
Yeah. So the problem that's going to happen with this is going to be the same problem that happened with California Adventure, where California Adventure was the second gate was always like at one point it was going to be Westcott and everything, but then they started making bad movies and started making bad theme parks in Europe, and suddenly the money's gone. So now that's when you get California Adventure, which had really just like off the shelf rides.
Right.
Like it just had like a Ferris wheel, and it had a regular old roller coaster, and it had a Top Shot ride, and it just had swings and a river raft ride. And like everything, like the most original thing they had there was Soarin' Over California. Or it launched with Superstar Limo, which was a miserable ride that was there for like less than a year. But Splash Mountain going away is going to bum me out because it's top 5 for me.
Yeah.
I'll be very excited to see what it does. I don't know what that means for Critter Country as a whole. Because it's definitely Princess and the Frog, I guess, can vaguely fit into the critter theme since they both turn into frogs.
And you put the light bug in there. And,
yeah. But it at least it has the advantage at Disneyland to be on the outskirts of New Orleans Square.
Right.
Haunted Mansion's in New Orleans Square, and Splash Mountain's next to Haunted Mansion.
Yep.
So vis-a-vis, it is the edge of Critter Country in New Orleans Square. So it fits in really well in that theming. So you really wouldn't have to change too much. I hope that means there will be a restaurant added, like Tiana's restaurant added to New Orleans in some way, shape, or form.
Authentic Cajun food.
Cajun food, yeah. Get some real Creole kind of stuff.
Or jambalaya or whatever.
Yeah. Because they have that stuff at Universal, but not Universal, at New Orleans Square, but to have it themed properly, like with her restaurant or something, would be great.
Yeah.
And there's not much else outside of that in Critter Country. There's only Winnie the Pooh and some shops. Yep. So, and Winnie the Pooh's not a great ride.
No, not really.
It's significantly worse than what was originally there. And I will fight to the death that Country Bear Jamboree is the biggest loss of all time at Disneyland.
You're like, if fine, you can change Splash Mountain, but if I got Country Bear Jamboree back.
Yeah. It's still running at Disney World in a truncated form, and I'm fine with that. But at Disney World, that's a trickier proposition. It is in Frontierland in Disney World. It's like next to Big Thunder, which it doesn't. New Orleans being in the middle of the Deep South, Are
they changing at the same time, or is it one Disneyland first and then Disney World?
I think it's same time-ish, but I think it's like a Galaxy's Edge kind of situation.
Okay.
But they're both being changed relatively. I mean, who knows when that's going to happen at this point?
Right.
Like, they announced it obviously in the middle of all of this, but Disney's got other things on their plate. Like, Disney World is building that Star Wars hotel.
Right.
California Adventure was supposed to be opening that Marvel Land, which obviously isn't happening right now. It's supposed to be open already. It's supposed to be open as of now, I think. Yep. And that obviously this is money that is just sort of being.
I mean, they're not bringing in any money from films right now.
Yeah. $30 to rent Milan.
I'll look for the pirated version of it.
Yeah. So really with Disney right now, they're making all of their money out of Disney Plus, and that's $7.
Right. But it's a lot of people subscribe to it.
Yeah, but luckily Disney succeeds in merchandise and home video anyways. Like, people buy, even with Disney Plus, people are still buying stuff, and you're always going to make money off of Star Wars. You're always going to make money off of Marvel stuff.
Right.
Mickey Mouse is one of the 2 or 3 biggest icons, merchandising icons in the world.
Right.
It's right up there with Coca-Cola and I'm trying to think what the other one was that's super popular. But yeah.
I'm still buying Marvel Legends. I know you are. Yeah.
Yeah. Star Wars toys are super popular. I'm buying comic books every week.
Yep.
So Disney has at least enough fingers in the pies of the world where they're never going to hurt. Even when you're losing $2 billion of operational costs.
How much do you have in reserve?
Yeah, Disney has
probably quite a bit.
Significant amount in reserve, and I forget. It was if something happened, they could survive just on the reserves for 5 years or something.
Right. If Nintendo can survive the Wii U,
yeah,
Disney can survive this.
Disney can survive what seemingly is a year at this point of Disneyland being closed. Like Disney World's reopened, but only vaguely, only in the vaguest sense. Like you're not buying new tickets. You are letting people in who already have tickets. So that's money already spent for tickets. Basically, you're just letting these people in to buy stuff.
Buy Funko Pops.
Yeah.
Which, those pictures infuriate me, sir.
Yeah. Anyways, critical reception for Song of the South was okay. Was fine. Yeah. Let's see. I just saw an interesting the ratio of live action to animation as 2-to-1, concluding that it is approximately the ratio of its mediocrity to its charm. So
damn,
it's a pretty good review and an accurate review, really.
Yeah.
I mean, Time Magazine praised its animation, saying it was great, but they said that it is definitely going to land Disney in hot water because Uncle Remus was bound to enrage all of the educated, and I'm not going to say that word, and a number of damn Yankees. It's the other N word that used to be the okay version of saying black person.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that one. I already feel bad saying the baby one earlier. Yeah. So, LA Times, during its 1986 re-release, praised the film as essentially a nostalgic Valentine to a past that never existed, and within those limits, it offers a pleasant family diversion for holiday afternoons when the children are restless. That doesn't sound like a great review.
I was like, hey, your kids are bored, right? I guess it's better than nothing.
Yeah, and it's basically like saying, like, it's whitewashed, it's all get out, and that's fine. The film grossed $3.3 million at the box office, netting the studio a profit of $226,000, which is $2.8 million in modern-ish money. So,
wow.
Yeah, so the score was nominated for Best Scoring of a Musical Picture, and Zippity Doo-Dah won the award for Best Original Song at the 20th Academy Awards. And a special award was given to James Baskett for his able and heartwarming characterization of Uncle Remus, a friend and storyteller to the children of the world in Walt Disney's Song of the South. For the portrayals of children Johnny and Ginny, Bobby Driscoll and Luana Patton were also discussed for Academy Juvenile Awards, but in 1947 it was decided not to present such awards at all. So not only were they were so bad, they decided not to have the awards period.
You know what? We don't care what other kids were in movies. We're just going to cancel them all. These two screwed it up for all of you.
Yeah. In the 2004 AFI 100 songs, it was Zippity Doo-Dah was number 47.
That seems, I guess.
Yeah.
Those AFI lists are always like suspect. Like, top 100 movies. Oh, it's gonna be Casablanca, isn't it? It's gonna be yes.
It's all Citizen Kane. It's always Citizen Kane, and Citizen Kane, at least,
is good.
That's at least a fair movie. There's a lot of things that were big about that movie, but
Casablanca sucks. I'm sorry.
It is. It does. It's a bad movie.
It sucks.
I don't even like Gone with the Wind, and that's always like top 5.
You want to talk about like, hey, let's whitewash. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if we should cover any of the controversial stuff of like. Okay, so when the movie was released, Walter White, which is not the Breaking Bad Walter White, but he was he was the executive secretary for the NAACP. Sent a telegraph to all the major newspapers with the following description of Song of the South. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People recognizes in Song of the South remarkable artistic merit in the music and in the combination of living actors and the cartoon technique. It regrets, however, that in an effort neither to offend audiences in the North or the South, the production helps to perpetuate a dangerously glorified picture of slavery, making use of beautiful Uncle Remus folklore. Song of the South, unfortunately, gives the impression of an idyllic master-slave relationship, which is a distortion of the facts. When
wrong, because not knowing that it's. Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, the thing that worked against him in that sense is that when he sent that, he hadn't seen the movie. He had two staff members were sent to see the movie, and they sent him memos back. One of them had written the film, said it was so artistically beautiful that it is difficult to be provoked over the cliches, but she also said that it contained all of the cliches in the book. And then another one, Springer listed several things she found objectionable from the film, including the African-American English. Jim Hill Media stated that both Jensen and Springer were confused by the film's reconstruction setting, which is sort of the major problem that this movie had, is that a lot of these people go see it, and Disney, again, we talked about it at the top of this, made it almost impossible to understand when this movie took place. You didn't know when this movie took place.
No, I didn't. But also don't say like, oh, they're confused. Like, oh no, don't.
Yeah. It's bad. But they also pointed out at the time it was something that also confused other reviewers from the tone of the film and the type of similar recent Hollywood movies like Gone with the Wind and Jezebel. They assumed it must also be set during the time of slavery. So the official position wasn't really based on any like firsthand viewings or information, but it's also not wrong. So
it's Disney did a bad job with the messaging, basically.
Yeah, there were picket lines, obviously, especially in later showings. There were protests. Disney tells lies about the South, set to Jingle Bells. So it's like Disney tells, lies about the South.
Wow.
Yeah. We want films of democracy, not slavery. Don't prejudice children's minds with films like this, that's very fair.
Yeah.
It's a fair thing to say. Black press in general were really split down the middle. It went from thoroughly disgusted to thoroughly delighted. I'm trying to think. There was one that I saw. Let's see. Herman Hill in the Pittsburgh Courier felt that Song of the South would prove inestimable goodwill in furthering of interracial relations, and considered criticisms of the film to be unadulterated hogwash, symptomatic of the unfortunate racial neuroses that seems to be gripping so many of our humorless brethren these days. So that's...
What's up, Cat of Thesaurus?
Yeah.
I use big words.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate. Obviously no sequels. Obviously no... but we did talk about... Well, there is merch in the sense of Splash Mountain being very successful.
Yeah.
You can still get Brer Fox, Brer Rabbit, Brer Bear stuff till you're blue in the face. It's Brer Bear and the baby appear in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Really?
Yeah.
The baby's in there?
Yeah. And Brer Bear can be seen in Maroon Studio lot briefly. But yeah, and the baby can be seen during the scene driving into Toontown. So that's interesting. I'll have to watch that again and look for the Splash. Video game wise, there is a single video game that has something Song of the South related. There was a game released for the Xbox called Kinect Disneyland Adventures, which was later re-released for the Xbox One as just Disneyland Adventures without the Kinect functionality. And there's a Splash Mountain segment that has Brer Fox, Brer Bear, Brer Rabbit, whole crew.
Somebody put Uncle Remus into Mugen.
Yeah, almost 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm almost certain there's a you know, WWE created wrestler out there somewhere.
Yeah.
What else would there be? There'd be trying to think what else he could possibly have showed up in. But,
Uncle Remus. I don't know.
Wouldn't it surprise me if there was some sort of like weird Atari game?
Right?
Disney Infinity. That'd be like Uncle Remus Disney Infinity figure would be.
Yeah, you know what's weird? You didn't put Brer Rabbit or Brer Fox in Disney Infinity, huh?
Yeah, I don't remember them doing that.
Because they don't show up in Kingdom Hearts either, right?
No.
Like, I don't remember collectible drink glasses with them on it. So
yeah,
it's just like there's no real merch outside the park.
Oh man, James Avery does the voice of Brer Bear.
At Splash Mountain?
No, and in the game.
Oh, Uncle Phil.
Uncle Phil or Shredder.
He's Uncle Phil to me, sir.
Yeah. Are you sure he doesn't? But he also wants turtle stew.
Yes.
And the Brer's first major appearance in Disney media after Song of the South was 2004's Lion King 1.5. They're in there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In 2003, the Online Film Critics Society ranked the film as the 67th greatest animated film of all time. That seems a little high.
That seems
it's not even really animated.
And it's not that great.
Yeah. So, yay. So that's Song of the South. Nick.
Yeah.
Would you recommend anyone check it out out of curiosity?
Yeah, in the sense, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's tough to say, yeah, you should watch this because it's important, and I guess it's important. I don't know, JJ. I don't know how to respond to that.
It's I
it's not a good movie. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
On its surface, strip everything else away, which is hard to do.
Yeah,
it's not a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth hunting down because I think everyone should have an opinion for themselves.
Yeah.
It's not a bad movie, but it's also not a good movie. It's probably not as bad as you would think it is, but it's also
that's really bad. Yes,
but it's also still not. It still shouldn't be officially released, but I think it's something interesting. I think it's an interesting history lesson. I think it's one of those things where you don't watch it for entertainment, really. I mean, there's a lot to be entertained by. Like I said, the music and Uncle Remus himself is really enjoyable, but you sort of watch it as sort of this, like, the history of sort of white America and its relations with African Americans, like even in 1940s, like what was going on. And this is sort of Disney made a movie that was going to prominently feature Black culture and Black history, and this is what it came out, and that is the whitest thing you could do, is pump out this movie. Like it comes from a place of well-meaning ignorance and just sort of tone deafness. It's I don't feel like anyone with the exception of maybe the guy we were talking about earlier, Raymond, I don't think anyone really came at it with any intentions of making something this controversial. They probably thought they were doing something important. They're listen, this is cultural. This is this kind of stuff, but it didn't come across right. That is just a white person thing. That comes from a place of privilege. That nobody listened to the right people in the production of this movie, and that's where its downfall ended up being.
And it's also watching this movie through 2020 eyes. It's especially right now, man.
Yeah, it was always bad. And then it got kind of less bad as culture sort of went into like a weird sort of where political correctness was sort of more of a punchline than it was something that we should strive for.
Oh, you mean regressive?
Yeah, but again, not necessarily. Nobody was being mean about it, but now as time goes on, it becomes clear what all of that was. And like in 2020, it's worse now than it's ever been, this movie. And there's no fixing the problems this movie has after 80 years of this movie's existence. It follows every sort of stereotype and trope you can have with this culture, and it's very clearly written and manufactured by a bunch of stuffy old white guys. So
I think, now thinking about it, I think you're right. It's worth taking a look at, if nothing else, just so, because preconception is probably like, oh, this movie is just going to be super racist. There's going to be saying the N-word and this and that. And it's not that, but and to see what it is.
Yeah. And to be fair to this movie's credit, they don't, with the exception of the baby, which again at the time wasn't a slur, they kind of pull away from any sort of that language. There's never they could have very easily have had like the bad kids have said something, maybe not to Remus, maybe not directly like as the very bad N-word, but maybe the slightly nicer N-word, or like I said the D word earlier. They could have easily, but they didn't. They to their credit, they strayed away from a lot of that, which is also whitewashing in itself. But whitewashing history, at least. But
it's like by not addressing it, you're kind of putting more of a microscope on it.
Or normalizing it. Like it's weird. It was damned if you do, damned if you don't with this movie, and it never. It's war games. It's an interesting game. The only way to win is not to play. And that was really the only option. Yeah, it was really the only way this movie was ever going to be accepted, was to just have it die and never come out, die in committee. But it didn't. They went through with it, and I think they thought they did the best they could, and they probably did do the best they could without being a bad movie or a racist movie. And it's still racist, which is, at the end of the day, I think it's worse in the sense where you tried very hard to make everything plucky. And it's like you ended up making it worse for yourself in some way by trying to pretend that some things that didn't exist, and it's weird. Is the cat or alive or dead? Like, you'll never know. It's in the box. It's out there. It exists. They made the movie. It could have been worse. Could have been better, but it exists, and it will never see the light of day, I think, and that's fine. It doesn't have to, and it shouldn't, but I still say it's easy enough to get where I will show it to anyone that asks. Like, my goal, if my cards play right, there should be a part 2 to this, where I got a friend of mine to record with me who has never ever seen it before. So before this, have you seen it before this?
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. I'm sure you did.
I'd see. Yeah, I'd see the Japanese bootleg version of it. Yeah, I'd see it.
So it'd be fun to talk to somebody who only knows it from. I don't even think. Yeah, from how it exists in our pop culture as Splash Mountain / the banned Disney film.
Yeah.
And to get a sort of, outsider's view of a movie that like this. So yeah, that should be fun. Talk to somebody who's never seen it before. Another 2.5 hour episode of Disney Companion.
That'd be interesting to kind of. It's culturally important. Yeah. Was the movie necessary? Probably not.
No.
Are we better off for it being made? No. But if nothing else, we got James Baskin some notoriety.
Yeah, it got a talented actor, an Academy Award at a time where
African Americans weren't winning Academy Awards, and it got Walt Disney a lifelong friend, I guess. So,
yeah.
And it got a Splash Mountain. So,
and it got a great song.
Yeah, got a great soundtrack out of it.
Yeah,
Again, not a great movie. It deserves what it's got right now. Its lot in life is what it deserves. We
devoted an hour or more to talking about it. Then it's runtime. So
so this is one of those things where this is a rare instance where we're actually talking about the movie more than anything else. We usually don't talk about the movie as much as we do. Like, we're not even going to we've already done 1946 in film. We don't need to do it again.
We typically get sidetracked, and I did a bit, but it's just like it's important to talk about it.
Yeah.
Again, we're two white guys, so
two white guys. Yeah. It's a movie that was made for us when it shouldn't have been.
But it's two white guys who can see where the problems lie.
Yeah. Like I said, even if you take out the baby scene in the middle, it's a problem of whitewashing history.
Oh yeah.
And is the biggest of all the problems. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable, and it's I hate it for that in that sense. So, this isn't the first time I've seen it. It's not even the second time I've seen it, but it's one of those things where in a few years I'll probably go back to it again. 10 years or so, and check it out again. It's interesting. It's an interesting movie, and it's a beautiful movie. It's well shot.
Yeah.
They really put their heart into it, which is also another bummer. Like, if only this were something else, luckily you kind of get a better version of this later on with like Mary Poppins or something.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, like the whitest movie imaginable. With also the very racist guy firing a cannon off of this.
Right.
But yeah, it is what it is, and I both recommend it and don't recommend it at the same time. So make up your own mind. I highly recommend it. If you come to me, I can point you in the right direction to get your experience from it yourself. I don't think you'll be monocles won't be popping out of any eyeballs, but
no pearls will be clutched.
Yeah, but at the same time, you will see what the problem is. It's pretty obvious from the get-go. So
right.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks everyone for this incredibly long episode of Disney Compendium. Probably the second longest, I would think, at this point, because I think the first longest was Fantasia.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to talk about with Fantasia, and there's a lot to talk about with this. So
that's why it's be 2 parts.
That's why there's a whole nother part to this one. But yeah, so next time we'll be doing the Song of the South replacement movie, Princess and the Frog. Disney's far better film, and Disney finally finding its groove in animation again. Can't wait. But until then, thank you all for joining us, and have a magical day. Or have one of them zippity-doo-dah days.